To this now, 5 suspects were killed in a shootout with police in Chatsworth in KwaZulu-Natal as law enforcement continues its crackdown on violent crimes. An intelligence-driven operation led police to an informal settlement where the incident happened in the early hours of this morning. Police say the deceased suspects were linked to incidents of murder, attempted murder, stock theft, extortion and house robberies in and around Durban. Our reporter Nonjabulo Magamo has more for us.
We are coming to you from one of the informal settlements here in Chatsworth on the south of Durban. Now, this is one of the informal settlements in which 5 suspects were shot at in a shooting with police. We understand amongst these alleged suspects, one of them is a 17-year-old. We understand also from police that the youngest is in his early 20s. And amongst those who have also been shot, we understand it is also a foreign national. But we do have the family members of some of these young men who were fatally wounded in this shootout, and they haven't given an opportunity to identify the bodies of their loved ones. But I do have the grandmother of one of these young men, and that is Ntombufuti. Mama, thank you so much for your time. Let's speak about, as a family, how are you feeling when you found out about your grandson having been one of the 5 that has been killed in this shootout with police?
Ngiphatheke kabi kakhulu ngomzukulu engizwa kuthiwa wehlelwe ile ngozi. Kubhlungu, angifuni ukuqamba amanga ngoba ke besingamazeli lezi ndlela bezihamba ke ecaca ukuthi usezize zamveza obala. Kodwa ke nje okungiphathe kabuhlungu ukuthi amaphoyisa trainwe ngendlela yamasosha lawa ukuthi ingane na 15 Nkosi yami ukuthi ayibambe ayibophe ichaza ukuthi ibifunani kuleyandlu la kutholakala khona ibhamu uNkulunkulu waziyo Nkosi yami.
So mamntombi futhi ngizokumisa nje la kancane ma uthi umntwana una 15. Information esitholile from emaphoyiseni ukuthi umntwana okhona la the youngest is 17. Mhlambe nje okusichazela usibekele isithombe ngabe mhlambe nje ukuthi una 15 ubeye esikoleni benibanze umntwana onjani?
Ubeye esikoleni waxakwa ugula esikoleni weza la kuthiwa kukhona umuntu ozomlapha ube nento yokuba nesifo sokuwa iyona nje into edala ukuthi adrophe kulonyaka, kodwa nje ube umntwana ofundayo ezithize ube selungiselelwe la ezofunda khona.
Mhlambe ngabe senitholile ithuba ukuthi ni-identify abantwana benu nanokuthi kuniphatha kanjani konke lokho? Siyezwa ukuthi amaphoyisa athi ibona badubule kuqala bese amaphoyisa athi ke nabo abese ephindisela ngeinhlamvu.
Inkinga amaphoyisa alana akona lawa abedubula, asazi ukuthi lokho nongenzeka kube akutshelwe yilawa adedubula. Thina besingajabulela nje ukuzwa ngalawa adedubula ukuthi nijutshulwe ingane nahluleke ukuyibamba nase niyayibulala.
Mhlambe ngabe bowazi ukuthi mhlambe ukhona ingxenye abantu abahamba nabo mhlambe kumele ngaba kahambi nabo, mhlambe benazo ukuthi mhlambe khona mhlambe ubugebengu akwenzayo njengomndeni?
Ay mina ngeke akukho engikwaziyo bandla ngoba bengingahlali la, bengihlala le ngifike nje ezugogo wakhe mangibikela ukuthi nakho sekwenzeka into ethile. Kodwa nje ubefika kumina ahlala umntwana kube kuhle anyuke ezazovakasha la ko anti bakhe abuye eze kumina noma esehamba futhi abike gogo ngiyahamba ngikhiphe lokho enginako lwahamba. Into zesikole nje kulonyaka ngiye ngamthengela ngazithumela ezumuntu obeyesikoleni uye waya ke inkinga kwayiloko ukugula nami bengakwazi ukuthi ukugula kunu kokudlikiza wa dropa ke esikoleni ezumuntu obezolashwa.
Amagama akhe umntwana sephelele ma?
Ulwandile Sibiya ngithi usamkele Sibiya, thina simbiza ngalento kalwa kuphela.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu ke Mam Mfutsi. Well, that is Mam Mfutsi, who is the grandmother of one of the 5 young men who has been shot here in a shootout with police. And she is saying that as a family, they never thought that he would be involved in any form of criminal activities. They are saying that they don't actually live in this area, but he was actually brought in this area because he was receiving some sort of traditional help or traditional treatment from one of the traditional healers here. Apparently, he suffers from a condition, which is why he had to drop out of school. And today, they were woken up to the news that he was amongst the 5 young men who have been shot, fatally wounded in a shootout with police. But over and above that, she also says that, she's criticizing police, for the manner in which they've handled, this incident. They feel that maybe police could have tried to actually, speak to these young men and not to shoot them and try to gather more information. So she is one of the many families that have been coming in here in this area, in this informal settlements, getting an opportunity to actually identify their loved ones. But most of them that we have spoken to, they're saying they want justice and they want more clarity, and they feel that police could have probably, managed this situation differently.
All right, so let's now bring in forensic investigations and crime expert Dorothy Mmushi as we take a closer look at crime fighting efforts, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. Dorothy, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. So notwithstanding just how brazen criminals have become in the country, we are now seeing more young people getting involved, especially in serious crime. In this incident, just hearing the youngest was just 17, according to police, but family members saying it could have been 15 years old, and the oldest just in their early 20s. As you react to this latest incident, what does this tell us about, youth involvement in violent crime syndicates?
Oh, thank you for having me, Unati. It's a sad reality about the profile of suspects in South Africa. The suspects of violent crime these days have gone even as young as 15. And what this is attributed by is the socio-economic impact that the country is going through. Number 2, it's the issue in relation to drugs, the fact that our youth are involved in drugs, and obviously unemployment. So hence we will find a lot of our youth involved in violent criminality.
It's quite concerning. I want us to talk now about the actual shootout. It does reveal quite a number of things. What does it reveal for you about just the current state of violent crime in KwaZulu-Natal, especially Durban and those surrounding areas, especially when you consider serious crimes like what we are now seeing here in terms of this case: murder, attempted murder, stock theft, extortion, which is a problem across the country, and of course house robberies too?
It's an indication that violent crime is quite rife in KZN, and the criminals there are not afraid of taking action against the police, because as we've heard, the first people to have shot on this crime scene were actually the suspects. And historically, you would find that suspects are more willing to cooperate with the police when they are being arrested. But with KZN criminals, you find that they're willing to engage in a shooting with the police. So it's quite saddening, and it shows that it needs more vigorous policing when the police are handling criminals that are based in KZN. And unfortunately, there's certain circumstances which is beyond the police, because what should the police do when suspects shoot at them? These are also individuals which need to protect their own lives too.
I would imagine even the response from the family members also quite telling, in that, she's saying that police are perhaps better trained to handle these matters and should have not engaged in shooting. But oftentimes, I would imagine the police was not even aware that they're dealing with the youth in this case, just given the brazen nature of the crime.
Well, that is correct. Even given the fact that before these individuals were arrested, the police knew who they were looking for. So therefore, they already had a profile of the individuals that they are aiming to arrest. The arrest took effect as a result of intelligence gathering. So I'm sure before the police approached that scene, they were aware of the criminals that they would be finding there. But with that said, as I said, if there is an exchange of fire, the police are also at liberty to protect their lives against such. They would obviously also take action, irrespective of the age of the individual that's holding the gun. And also, what I want to add is that with KZN, the fact that there's so much access to firearms, illegal firearms are easily accessible in KZN, and this also gives rise to the increase in violent crime. And the youth there obviously engage in gangs, and as a result of that, they are able to be involved in violent crime that utilizes these illegal firearms.
And I want to talk about that intelligence gathering. I mean, police say the suspects were linked to multiple crimes. How does forensic evidence help confirm whether these suspects were indeed involved?
I mean, obviously, before the police get to a point where they arrest somebody, they would have done an intense investigation, and evidence would have then led them to these suspects. And hence, the police are also able to say these individuals were involved in series of crime. So therefore, they do have evidence that shows that these individuals have been involved in the crime. So I don't think this was an operation that was just based on the police acting spontaneously. It was as a result of proper, thorough investigations that took place.
And how, widespread is the, or let me say, how well-sourced is the intelligence-led operations? Because you see some good pockets in some provinces, but not necessarily in other provinces. I mean, from your perspective, how reliable and sustainable are such operations, particularly when we talk about dismantling criminal networks?
Well, the operations depend obviously on the resources that are involved in the intelligence gathering. That would mean the individuals, the police officers that are involved in that operation, if they have access to high-tech systems to be tracking and tracing individuals, or their investigation mechanisms are such that they're able to detect what others can't, that would then be indicative of the level of policing that takes place in that particular province. So with KZN, as we've seen recently, they've got quite good intelligence operation mechanisms, which then enables them to also track and trace criminals easily.
All right. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for your time. Really do appreciate it. Forensic investigations and crime expert Dorothy Mmushi there, just looking at crime closely in KwaZulu-Natal.